Hey everyone, I want to try something a little bit different today. I was watching a documentary about Thomas Jefferson a couple nights ago because I'm dorky like that. And they talked about how he was a writer and not an orator. And I wondered if that could be true for me too, seeing as I've spent decades with a notebook by my side, documenting events real time, from music shows to protests to everyday life miracles. So, this is my written word and me orating it. We'll see how it works, I gotta try out new things. Before I start into it, I want to remind everyone that life is magical. I know that's silly to say, but sometimes we get so deep into it that we forget to step back. And we are so immersed in the chaos and the doing of everyday life that we just forget to look at it and give it some love. Love something about life. So find the beauty in an instant, the joy, the unbelievableness of it. Because we're in this time of history. And we need to stop and know that it's amazing to be alive. To breathe in a deep breath of it and be thankful for nothing more than the fact that our lives exist and that we're here. No matter if you're on the left or the right, boy, we're alive right now. We might not be tomorrow, who knows? So appreciate the fact that it exists. And then after that, you can spend some time watching fish in a pond. It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm meditating. Or you can watch squirrels playing in a tree or whatever it is that, I don't know, maybe the flames of a fire, right? Or you can drift back into the worldly reality we're all in, and have hopefully a new perspective of it. So I wanted to start with that. My perspective right now is of a black female nurse or doctor, I can't tell, yelling at a white man in a MAGA hat, telling him she has the right to refuse service. Now, I'm skeptical because, we're all in an age where it's hard, even with video, to tell what's true and what's not. And it tends to land on your own heart and your mind to decide what's truth and what's false. In this instance, I think this happens, or at least has happened, or has been happening recently, where people refuse service due to differing political views. But this one that I'm seeing here, I think this example is an act. People are fooled in the chat, and I wish it was shared that it's a skit. But either way, I'm sure it's happened. I keep scrolling down. And then I see it. Ugh. I stop at a new liberal white woman post, and I shake my head that a pro-family crusade could be anything but positive. She complains that Usha Vance, Caroline Levitt, and Katie Miller are pregnant. Congrats, ladies. And this girl acts like it's a coordinated attack on women to convince them to have kids. An attack on her team anti-family. I find that appalling. I can recognize that our antithesis is the anti-family, anti-human movement, right? But it blows my mind that anyone on either side can see that side isn't anything other than evil, hateful, and truly the deepest form of discrimination against all humanity. It's despicable. On top of that, we see the streets of Minneapolis are filled with protesters and Antifa and rioters, and it's just not a good scene there. I ache to see a counter movement arise, but at the same time I recognize that patience is a virtue. The sane people of our country, those ones who still believe in families and humanity and work ethic and merit and the rule of law and protecting the innocent over the guilty, we're at home raising families, working jobs, appreciating what we have and the beauty of the lives that we are living. And we're sitting back, warm, hopefully, shaking our heads at the lunacy that has taken over the minds of a portion of our population. I mean, what happened to these people? We're praying for ICE and what we imagine will soon be the National Guard, who we're told is outnumbered there in Minnesota. What can you believe but images that could be tampered with, though, right? There's really no way I can be brought to believe that some evil faction somewhere isn't paying for the outrage we're seeing. For the streets full in the cold of winter to stand for what? Their own suicide? Their own erasure? The theft of their own money? Who are these people standing out there doing this? I've seen the posts on Craigslist that people are getting offered $1,500 a week to do these protests. And I mean, that's some good money. So I guess it could be that, but do you really have those values to support that for some money? Is that really what you stand behind? It all just seems so evil. I can't see how that's the side you choose. Let's back way up for a second. Why? Why is this agenda getting pushed on us so hard? Why do they want people to hate themselves? Why flood the country with illegals? Why steal votes to get seats? Why vote in the atrocious laws that are being voted in? Why steal billions, if not trillions, from hardworking people? There's just something so much deeper and darker than all the twisted trails that we keep following. And we keep finding more fraud and corruption. But what's the deep down why? And how does goodness conquer evil? I'm still in the middle of reading the Bible, but my guess is that we do it with light, exposing the rot and washing it clean. And oftentimes, I've seen in the Bible, that means with fire. I scroll further down and I hear the traitor, that's Tim Walz, speaking about billing the federal government for the cost of the National Guard. He's laying the blame on the federal government. You know, here's the deal. I teach my sons that a real man takes responsibility every time. He does not put blame on anyone else's shoulders, even if it might be theirs to be blamed. It's always your own fault, and it's always your job to fix it. Never put blame on someone else. That's what I'm teaching my sons, because I think that's the way a man deals with life. Tim Walz isn't doing that. He's always blaming someone else. What kind of a man is that? Next, I scroll down more and there's an ad for lab-grown chicken, or it's essentially an ad. And there's not a chance, and I hope you feel the same way, there's not a chance I'd eat that sludge ever over raising my own chickens for food. A giant factory built to make fake food? Or the grass and dirt that God's own nature provided? Why would you choose one over the other? I mean, how could you ever decide that this giant laboratory is a better choice to nature, the way it was intended? You won't see me eating it or supporting it. Further down my feed, there's a report that a rioter bit an ICE agent's fingertip off. As if I didn't think they were psycho already. And there's a picture of it mauled. Who stands for that kind of insanity? Does my brother stand for that? Next, a video of Bondi, toothless as always. And I, for one, can't stand that over a year has gone by and there are hundreds, probably thousands of people who deserve prison and not one has been held accountable. How are we still waiting for that? Come on. Outrage is certainly the timeline in front of me. And this is how it's been for days and weeks and months. Oh, and then there's the idiocy I see even from someone as smart as Elon. And it's the idiocy of utopia. This utopic future. Here's an example. Soon we will all be aristocrats. It will be like capitalism never happened. We won't need to clean or cook or drive our cars. Everything will be done by robot servants. Robots will replace slaves and serfs. Neo-feudalism, except we will all be lords of the manor. Utopia is a myth, people. And that right there doesn't sound like utopia, it sounds like hell. No. Nowhere close to the future I want to live or the future that I want my kids to live in. It reminds me of a quote that I wrote down the other day while watching an old documentary about the Amish. It goes like this. The Amish find their happiness and meaning in labor rather than the escape from it. And I think a lot more of us need to stop and think about that idea for a while. Today we can't even stop to observe the Sabbath for one day a week, and yet we believe we want robot slaves to take on our work for us so we can, play video games? That's not my cup of tea. As I continue on down my feed, it's more invasion this, invasion that, from Mexicans to Muslims, and then there's leftist idealist yelling at mothers that they want their babies dead. Protesters holding up communism banners. More racism against whites. More liberal women complaining. More election fraud news. Another video of a mob of black gangsters looting a store. And that's what we're watching from our homes right now. The complete and utter decay of our country as if it's a movie playing out in real time. I know which team mine is. I'm sure you know which team yours is. And I hope that we can come to a conclusion together of what kind of action needs to get taken and what kind of future we want to see. Because something's being pushed on us that I know I don't want. And I think the majority of us don't want it. And we need to stop being silent about it. We need to write more. We need to orate more. We need to put out more videos and be talking to friends and family more. We can't be the silent majority for much longer. I think a lot more people need to put their voices out there. And I've heard it from a lot of influencers and newscasters, and I think it's true. So put your voice out there, even if it's scary. What do they say? Even if it shakes. And I hope you agree with me on a lot of these points, because it's a scary narrative we're being fed, and I don't see the future displayed in front of me that I want to see. Let's try to start putting that out there a little bit more.